Hello, this is Father Michael Nasser coming to you from St. Nicholas Orthodox Church here in Grand Rapids, Michigan for this week's Midweek Reflection. And today I'm continuing my Wayside Wisdom series of sayings that I saw along my walk in Spain this past June. And the one I'm going to reflect on today, I think it's appropriate for today. I think it's appropriate for every day. And if you saw the picture associated with the video on YouTube, I don't know if you saw that, but anyway, the saying on the wall was, "Open your heart, soften your heart, now is the time." Pretty simple message, as many of these are, and yet when we stop to think about them, they're actually pretty profound and really important. Let's talk about the now is the time part, because that's the end of this. You know, we often wait for certain times to do certain things. And because of that, we often miss opportunities. And for now to be the time to soften our hearts and open our hearts it might seem to be not a really good time. We're seeing horrible bloodshed again in warfare in the Middle East. Economic news goes up and down, but the forecast looks mostly down. Lots of things going on, maybe in our personal lives even, that might make us think this is not a good time. And therefore, when things aren't good, when things don't feel safe, when they feel threatening, when we're scared, or when we're angry and upset by things we see, often our first reaction is the opposite of opening our heart and softening our heart. We close our heart, we harden our heart, sort of like going into battle. You harden your defenses. You put your guard up. You get very closed off. You close the gates, right? But that idea that now is the time, it's always the time. That's why that saying is so beautiful. Now is the time to open our hearts and soften our hearts, because the closing and the hardening of the hearts is the wrong move. It feels good, it feels safe. All that's really a lie, because all that does is close ourselves off from the outside world by hardening our hearts and closing our hearts, and even closing ourselves off from God. The Bible, especially the New Testament, is really clear that God dwells within us. So when we harden our hearts, we close off our hearts, it's even locking God up. Even though it's inside us, it's even locking him up from us. And it's never going to feel like the right time. In fact, the more it feels like the worst time, that's the time to open our hearts and soften our hearts. Times may be really bad and scary. Sometimes times are so good we don't even think about God. That's also the time to open our hearts and soften our hearts, to be aware of the fact that God is with us all the time, at every moment, at every place. Those people that right now are cowering in fear of warfare coming to their house, bombs being rained down on their neighborhoods, on their buildings. Now's the time for them to open their hearts and soften their hearts. What does warfare come from? It comes from a hardening and the closing of the heart. So whether it's warfare across the world or just even warfare within us, now is the time to open up our hearts, soften our hearts, and be open to the fact that God is there. He has us in his hands. Even if death should come to us, even that shouldn't scare us, because he's conquered even death. He's conquered every enemy, including, as the Bible says, the last enemy, which is death. So I hope today that you'll realize that now is the time to open your heart and soften your heart and realize that God is with us. And if he is with us, again, as the Bible says, who can be against us? So I hope you find that helpful. If you do, please share it with your family and friends, and God willing, we'll see you in next week's video.